What's going on, Bitcoin universe? How's it going, guys? We're gonna call this a recap video. So I've had a lot of questions about how I'm using solar power and the wind turbines to actually generate power and help me mine Bitcoins or altcoins. So this device here is the solar mill. It is actually a really neat invention. You can find it at I'll put a link down at the bottom where you guys can check it out at. So these are 300 watt solar panels. The whole system's about 1200 watts. It runs, this is basically a converter for the wind. Somehow, I don't understand it 100%, but the power that are coming from the wind motors have to be converted into something similar to the power that is coming from the solar panels, which then goes into this inverter. This inverter is, trust me, it's a really good one of the best ones on the market. I do consulting, guys. If you guys are interested, definitely check me out, give me an email, and we can try to help you set up a system. But when you guys are looking at solar panels, and especially solar panels, you guys want to make sure that it has, I think it's called the MP mapping. Don't quote me on the exact name of it. But bottom line is, what happens is if you look at the top panel up here, you guys will see a leaf right here, and this is a shadowing effect. So unfortunately, if you don't have a good inverter, the inverter is really going to be it's the brains of the system. So you really want to do major research and don't cheap out on your inverters. Again, guys, this is just a quick video, but what that does is that shadow right there would drastically reduce the amount of power that panel can produce. But because this has the smart mapping, it knows that the shadow's right there, and it only winds up reducing it by 5% or so. So it's still able to produce, more like 90%, 95% of the potential power, even though that leaf is there. Where on a different inverter system, that leaf would totally wreak havoc on it, and you would hardly get any power. So again, guys, this is just kind of a brief rundown of the solar mill and what this device does. Again, it generates me about 1200 watts, which is what it takes to run a AntMiner S7 or AntMiner S9, or a 6 GPU rig is about 1200 watts as well. So I'm only getting sun on this, obviously, 12 hours, 8 hours a day, probably more like 8 hours a day. So I'm basically going to run one AntMiner S7 about 8 hours a day for free. Is probably what this is going to average out per year, just to give you guys a rough idea. And I do not have this hooked up to any batteries. This is actually tied into my house. And all it does is it uses the grid as a battery bank. So it just ties straight into the house. So whatever the house is drawing, it draws from it. If there's extra power, it goes into the grid, and the grid just acts like the battery. It's a much cheaper setup. It's instead of doing this. So I'm going to go ahead and pause this, and we'll show you guys the rest of the setup. I see my charcoal's getting ready. Go ahead and pause this video, and I'll resume the rest of it. But I'm grilling out some meat today, so I might start a cooking channel if you guys are interested. Leave in the comments below if you are. So again, guys, if you're interested, leave in comments. I might make a cooking channel. I'm just going to sear this meat for a beef stew I'm going to cook inside. These are our local neighborhood deer. They're not too afraid of us. Up there the little one goes. Don't mean to startle you, guy, but you're just so cute. I just need to get around the corner. You can go on grazing. I think he's just as curious as I am. Can I call you Bambi? Oh, there's a couple more in the woods if you can see them moving back there. But anyhow, I came over here to show you guys the panel. We added a 240 amp breaker double pole to the sub panel in the basement, which runs through the box, which I'll show you now. Unfortunately, there's no light in this corner, but it's just a sub panel with 3 other smaller breakers, and I'll show you where they go. excuse me, I forgot, there's actually 5 breakers in there. Each run has its own breaker, and I'm running them on, I want to say 15 amps on each run. So those are the plugs that I have inside of the box. They're basically 240 volts. Each AntMiner only draws about 6 amps. Which, you know, again, each one of those has, I think, a 15 amp breaker. So I should be able to run 2 on each plug, but I only set it up to run only a single one per plug. So that way I can run 4. I have basically, excuse me, 5. I have 4 AntMiners S7s, and I have the GPU miners that are down here. So basically I have the ability to run either or, and 5 of them in the box. So again, I was trying to give you guys a quick recap. That's kind of the power, how the power got to the box. Now, you guys notice this box here that I've been showing you guys behind. If you go back and check some of my older videos out, I explain it very well. This is an old port that's disconnected. This right here, this larger port is, I'm not using this fan version anymore, is coming from my house. This is actually my downstairs return grill air supply. So the air is getting filtered at the return grill upstairs, and it's coming into the box. Then it is coming out of the back of the box, which is right here, and then it goes over to my AC system, which is going to the return side. Don't mind the mess, guys. So that air is going from that back corner over, down, into the return side. This is the return from upstairs. So I'm only pulling the air from downstairs. So I'm using the downstairs air of my house, the volume of my house, to cool or heat my house. So basically, I'm using this in the winter to heat my house for free. The air comes in, it goes through a cleaner, a filter right here, and it goes over the coil. So the AC coil has refrigerant in it, and that refrigerant helps it to maintain a certain temperature. So in summertime, it does run the AC system to help cool my miners, but I'm learning that it depends on the outside temperature. It basically, if you've got about a 15-degree delta temperature difference, this system works. When it gets over a 15-degree difference between inside and outside, you start to spend more money than it's worth. So it's going to depend on your area. Again, there's a lot of videos I've made on this stuff, guys, that you go back and watch. If you got questions, feel free to ask. I'll try to help you. I do consultation as well. But basically, all my miners are using the blower inside my house AC system. So I'm only running one fan for my entire house. It's cooling my GPU miners and my AntMiners all at the same time. And then at the, so that way it goes in the box. So let's go back to the box. So this is a quick view of the box. You can actually smell the food I'm cooking upstairs. So I've kind of rearranged it a little bit. I've got the GPU miners here, and the AntMiners over here. So I got to keep the door closed so it, you know, produces static pressure. But basically all I did was I took this tube, the 14-inch pipe, which comes from this side to this side, cut it in half, put a box in the middle of it, and put the equipment on the inside of it. And that's how everything stays cool, and it runs within my system. So in the winter, I get absolutely free heat. I do not have to pay a dime to heat my house. Yes, in the summertime, it does cost me. Spring, fall, it seems to be pretty neutral. If you open the windows, it doesn't seem to be too bad. Dead summer, you know, when it's over a 15-degree delta difference between inside and outside, it really starts to get expensive. I learned that the hard way this summer, so be careful with that during the hot times and depending on where you live. If you're in a cold climate, this is an awesome setup. So again, guys, thanks for watching. It's the Bitcoin Miner here. Make sure to check out the description area. There's some links down there. Like the video, subscribe, and whatever else there is, to do. Check me out in the next video. See you guys.